Have you ever wondered what actually happens between a tobacco leaf sitting in a field under the sun and the small white cylinder that ends up sealed inside a shiny pack on a store shelf? Behind that innocent-looking object lies one of the most secretive, highly automated and tightly guarded production chains in the entire consumer goods world. Most people assume a cigarette is a simple product, just paper, tobacco, and a filter. But what actually takes place inside the hidden production facilities that manufacture cigarettes is a process so mechanized, so chemically engineered, and so precisely controlled that almost nothing about it resembles the rustic, handmade image most people carry in their minds. This is a world of stainless steel drying drums, industrial blending chambers, laser-guided inspection systems, and machines running at speeds the human eye cannot even follow. Somewhere behind restricted access doors, in facilities most outsiders will never step inside, tobacco leaves are stripped, shredded, roasted, sprayed with proprietary flavor formulas, and reconstituted into an entirely engineered substance before a single cigarette is ever rolled. The scale of this hidden industry is almost impossible to imagine. A single modern factory line can produce more than 20,000 cigarettes every single minute. That means that in the time it takes you to read this sentence, an unseen machine somewhere on the planet has already rolled, filtered, and packaged more cigarettes than most people will smoke in an entire lifetime. And yet, despite this staggering output, almost nobody outside the industry has ever seen what that production floor actually looks like. Tobacco companies guard their processing facilities the way luxury fashion houses guard their ateliers, because the transformation happening inside is not just industrial, it is chemical, and much of the exact formulation is treated as closely protected proprietary information. Today, we are going behind those doors. We are going to walk through the entire hidden production process, from the raw green leaf harvested in the field to the sealed, taxed, and barcoded pack ready for global distribution. You will see how raw plant material becomes a blended, engineered product through curing, casing, cutting, drying, and high-speed mechanical assembly. You will understand how flavor formulas are applied, how the reconstituted tobacco sheet is created from leftover stems and dust that would otherwise be thrown away, and how filters are manufactured and attached at blinding speed. This is the forbidden revelation of an industry that touches billions of consumers worldwide, yet remains almost entirely hidden from public view. Before we go further, if you have ever been curious about the hidden industrial processes we uncover on this channel, and if you want to see more forbidden production lines like this one, make sure you comment the word "revealed" below so we know you are following along. Tap that like button so this investigation reaches more curious minds like yours, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next hidden factory we expose. Now, let's step through those restricted doors. The story of a cigarette begins long before any factory is involved, in vast agricultural fields where tobacco plants are cultivated under carefully controlled conditions. Depending on the blend being produced, growers cultivate different varieties. Virginia, or flue-cured tobacco, known for its high sugar content and golden color; burley tobacco, air-cured and prized for its ability to absorb flavoring; and oriental tobacco, sun-cured and aromatic, often grown in smaller leaf form. Each type contributes something different to the final blend, much like grapes contribute different characteristics to a wine. Once harvested, the leaves are not yet ready for processing. They must first go through curing, a controlled drying process that can take anywhere from a few days to several weeks, depending on the method used. Flue-cured tobacco is hung in enclosed barns where heated air, once generated by wood or coal fires, and now typically by gas or propane systems, is circulated to slowly remove moisture while preserving the leaf's sugar content, which is what gives Virginia tobacco its signature sweetness when burned. Burley tobacco, by contrast, is air-cured in open barns for weeks, allowed to dry naturally, developing a different chemical profile with lower sugar and higher nicotine expression. Once cured, the leaves are baled and transported to primary processing facilities, and this is where the hidden industrial transformation truly begins. At these facilities, leaves are first sorted by grade, color, and quality through a combination of human inspectors and increasingly automated optical sensors that scan each leaf for consistency. The leaves then move into a threshing process, where the leaf lamina, the soft leafy part, is separated from the central stem, which is thick, woody, and unsuitable for direct use in cigarette rolling. This separation happens inside massive threshing machines that use rotating blades and air suction to strip the leaf material away, leaving behind two separate streams: the strip, which is the usable leaf material, and the stem, which was traditionally considered waste, but which the modern industry has found an ingenious and highly secretive way to repurpose, something we will reveal further into this investigation. After threshing, the tobacco strips are moved into massive climate-controlled storage areas known as hogsheads, or bulk storage bins, where the tobacco undergoes a process called aging. This is remarkably similar to how whiskey or wine is aged, except instead of alcohol, we are talking about leaf tobacco resting for 1 to 3 years in these controlled environments, allowing natural enzymatic and chemical changes to mellow harsh compounds and develop a more balanced flavor profile. Few consumers realize that the tobacco inside their cigarette may have been aging in an industrial warehouse for years before ever reaching a rolling machine. This aging step is one of the most closely guarded secrets of flavor development, because the exact duration, humidity levels, and storage conditions used by each manufacturer directly influence the final taste signature that makes one cigarette brand distinguishable from another. Once aging is complete, the real engineering begins in what insiders call the primary processing or green leaf threshing to cut rag stage. The aged tobacco strips from different tobacco types and different growing regions are brought together in enormous blending rooms where precise formulas, closely guarded and known only to a small number of blend engineers, determine exactly what percentage of Virginia, Burley, and Oriental tobacco will make up the final product. This blend is what gives each cigarette brand its unique identity, and the exact ratios are treated with the same secrecy as a perfume formula or a soft drink recipe. The blended tobacco then moves into what is called the casing stage, and this is where the process becomes far more chemical than most consumers would ever expect. Casing involves spraying the blended tobacco with a liquid formula, often containing sugars, glycerin, cocoa, licorice extract, and other proprietary flavoring agents, applied through rotating drums that tumble the tobacco while fine mist nozzles coat every strip evenly. This casing step is critical because it not only adds flavor, but also adds moisture back into the tobacco and makes the leaf more pliable for the cutting process that comes next, while also helping to reduce the natural harshness of raw tobacco smoke. After casing, the tobacco moves into massive cutting machines, sometimes called shredders, where razor-sharp rotating blades slice the leaf into extremely fine strands, similar in width to fine shredded cabbage. The width of this cut, measured in fractions of a millimeter, is another closely controlled variable, because it directly affects burn rate, smoke density, and how the tobacco packs inside the cigarette paper. Once cut, the shredded tobacco enters a drying process known as toasting or expansion, where it passes through massive rotating drying cylinders that use hot air to reduce moisture content to a precise target level, typically around 12 to 13%. This drying stage is where many manufacturers also apply a second flavor treatment, sometimes called top dressing or top flavoring, a light final spray of aromatic compounds applied after the primary drying, designed to sit closer to the surface of the tobacco strand so that it is more immediately perceptible when the cigarette is lit. This is one of the most heavily protected trade secrets in the entire tobacco industry, and access to this specific stage of production is often restricted even to many employees within the same facility. Now remember that stem material we mentioned earlier, the leftover woody stalk separated during threshing? Rather than discarding it, the industry developed an ingenious process to transform this waste material into usable product, and this is something almost no consumer has ever heard about. The stems, along with tobacco dust and small leaf fragments collected throughout the production process, are pulverized into a slurry mixed with water and binding agents, and then processed through massive paper-making style machines that spread this slurry into thin, continuous sheets, very similar to how paper itself is manufactured. This reconstituted tobacco sheet, sometimes called RTS or sheet tobacco, is then dried, cut into strands, just like natural leaf tobacco, and blended back into the final product, often making up 10 to 20% of the total tobacco content inside a modern cigarette. This means a portion of nearly every cigarette produced today is not composed of whole leaf tobacco at all, but of an industrially engineered sheet made from what would otherwise have been factory waste, transformed through a process closely resembling paper production. Have you ever imagined that a piece of what you thought was simple rolled leaf might actually contain manufactured sheet material processed on machinery, borrowed from an entirely different industry? Once the final blended, cased, cut and dried tobacco is ready, it moves toward what is arguably the most mechanically impressive part of the entire hidden production chain, the cigarette-making machine. These machines, some of the fastest mechanical assembly systems in any consumer goods industry, take a continuous stream of loose-cut tobacco and form it into a dense, uniform column called a rod. Cigarette paper, pre-printed with the manufacturer's specific porosity and burn rate specifications, is fed from massive spools and wrapped continuously around this moving tobacco rod, sealed instantly with a fast-drying adhesive applied along the paper's edge. A rotating blade then cuts this continuous rod into individual cigarette lengths at a speed that can exceed 20,000 cigarettes per minute on a single production line, a rate so fast that human eyes perceive it only as a blur of white movement across the factory floor. But a cigarette is not complete with just tobacco and paper. The filter, another component most consumers never think twice about, is manufactured on a separate but equally fast production line. Filters are typically made from cellulose acetate tow, a fluffy synthetic fiber material that resembles cotton candy in its raw form before being compressed. This tow is plasticized, compacted into a dense rod shape, wrapped in its own paper covering, and then cut into filter segments. These pre-made filter segments are then fed into the main cigarette assembly line, where a separate machine, working in perfect synchronization with the tobacco rod line, attaches each filter to its corresponding tobacco rod using a specialized tipping paper, often cork-patterned for visual branding, that wraps around and glues both the filter and the tobacco rod together into a single unified stick. This entire filter attachment and tipping process happens in a fraction of a second per cigarette, an assembly feat of precision engineering that most people will never witness firsthand because access to these production floors is almost universally restricted to authorized personnel only. What did you think happened inside these hidden filter-making chambers? Did you imagine the filter was simply pressed cotton, or does the reality of compressed synthetic fiber tow surprise you? As finished cigarettes emerge from the combined rod and filter assembly machine, they pass through a battery of automated quality control systems before ever reaching packaging. Laser and optical sensors scan every single cigarette for weight consistency, checking that each stick contains the correct amount of tobacco within an extremely narrow tolerance. Any cigarette that falls outside acceptable weight, length, or density parameters is automatically rejected and ejected from the line, often faster than the human eye can register the rejection happening. Additional sensors check filter attachment integrity, paper seam quality, and even airflow resistance through the finished cigarette to ensure consistent draw when a consumer eventually lights it. This obsessive level of automated inspection exists because even a microscopic manufacturing flaw, invisible to the naked eye, could affect burn rate, flavor delivery, or smoke density in ways that consumers would immediately notice, and brand consistency is treated as sacred within these hidden factories. From quality control, accepted cigarettes are grouped into batches, typically 20 at a time for a standard pack, and fed into high-speed packaging machines. These machines wrap the cigarettes first in foil-backed inner paper to preserve freshness and moisture content, then insert them into the printed cardboard outer packaging, complete with brand graphics, government-mandated health warnings, and increasingly specialized security features designed to prevent counterfeiting. The completed packs are then wrapped in a final layer of clear cellophane, sealed with a tear strip, and stamped with batch codes, production dates, and in many countries, tax stamps that verify the product has passed through legal, regulatory, and taxation channels. From here, packs are grouped into cartons, cartons are palletized, and the finished product moves into massive automated warehouses before beginning its journey through distribution networks to retailers around the world. What you have just walked through is a production chain that most consumers and even most smokers themselves have never had explained to them in this level of detail. From curing barns and threshing machines, through chemical casing and flavor engineering, through the transformation of waste stems into reconstituted sheet tobacco using paper manufacturing technology, through filter toe compression, and finally through blindingly fast robotic assembly and packaging lines, the modern cigarette represents one of the most heavily engineered, precisely controlled, and tightly guarded production processes in all of consumer manufacturing. Very few outsiders are ever permitted to see this process firsthand, and the exact formulas for casing, top flavoring, and blend ratios remain among the most closely protected trade secrets in global industry. Now that you have seen behind these restricted doors, what part of this hidden process surprised you the most? Was it the reconstituted tobacco sheet made from leftover stems, the multi-year aging process happening in massive industrial warehouses, or the sheer speed of machines capable of producing 20,000 cigarettes every single minute? Let us know in the comments which stage of this forbidden production line shocked you the most. And stay with us as we continue uncovering the hidden industrial processes that shape the products we encounter every single day.